and good evening everyone out in the world, in outer space or the universe, in the world as a whole. This is the lovely and beautiful Miss Kyoko Cane. And welcome to the Daystar Voyage, the space captain herself, the vintage blur queen herself, who sailed 1,007 seas and voyages throughout space. And thank you so much for clicking on this video and supporting and subscribing if you have not old or new space cowboys and girls, which you are old or new joining this space cruise along with aliens, leg butt, etc. in general. And that means LGBT, etc. in general. And I'm so glad to boost up on this video and just blast off on it, which we'll do doing soon. And we're going to be discussing about this really great anime that's been on its 30th anniversary during its ending on this very day, called Cowboy Bebop. Yes, I'm so freaking excited about to talk about this one. Because at this right about now, at this very moment, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of its ending on this very special day towards one of the most defining retro vintage anime of all time that pretty much paved the way towards the golden age of anime in general. And make sure to take a sip of water and a sip of juice every time I say golden age anime, because I'm going to be saying that a lot, so I'm so nervous and excited. But yes, there are going to be some tips and notes and rants about what makes Cowboy Bebop so special, along with its demographic being shoujo, which we're going to get a deep dive into. And it's going to be so glad we're going to talk about the golden age anime, how it pretty much paved the way. So let's topic with a key consistency with me, and let's blast off. Woohoo! Yes. Now, we do understand that the golden age of anime was one of those times in the late 80s throughout the 90s in which the first time anime was introduced towards the West. And this pretty much has been a well-known fact because we have grown up from one of the most influential weekday TV lineups called Toonami, which also bring inspiration towards Adult Swim. And Toonami was basically the weekday lineup of your most favorite all-time classic late 80s or late 90s or niche Japanimation series are also cartoons that pretty much ran throughout the whole weekday lineup. With Adult Swim was pretty much having the most I say niche titles and also more TV 14 rated or M-rated stuff throughout. As a person myself who also enjoyed these mini mediums and throughout, I do feel with this special one called Cowboy Bebop, Cowboy Bebop is one of those ones in which pretty much it was a golden nugget in its own, stuck in the landmines in itself. And it's pretty much been one of the most beautiful, awe-inspiring, most visually appealing shows that pretty much paved the way towards making Adult Swim much more promoted and prominent along its time running. And I see that why I wanted to discuss about the demographic success, because we never know at this very moment that Cowboy Bebop was a shoujo. And why I say it, because we got so much of a good writing towards the show, and also the movie, which I saw last night, was basically so much of the characters and the depth of the story and also the prominent writing of the show pretty much catered towards a shoujo, because all the characters were so written well, and also the surroundings and also the artistry and also the manga was basically just made out of its first time distributed in its manga first before it got into an anime called Asuka Fantasy DX, which is a magazine cover based off of shoujo titles and also demographics as such, which I feel people have got a misconception, also wrongdoing of how they pretty much promote anime nowadays in today's modern world. So we need to do a lot of studying on that. Because why I say this, because today's anime demographics are not being shoved towards shonen, because not everything is pretty much geared towards shonen and men in general. Because girls for shoujo is basically geared towards the sultriness of the female gaze, as for shonen it's the male gaze, where male gaze booby shots and inappropriate stuff and crude humor. Basically geared towards especially party humor and also all this stuff underwear shots and whatnot that are so inappropriate though. Along with I feel seinen to a certain degree might do it at times in a non-linear way compared towards shonen being more linear. And with shoujo and josei, you don't get that nowadays, because it has much more depth and nuance and also closure. And with nuance, it's much more tricky because the way the show promotes Cowboy Bebop is where it's done all the characters and also the world building and the lore and also its many struggles within each one does a lot more better. And that's why I feel they got so much styles and also many writing props towards shoujo in general, and that's why they pretty much geared towards Asuka Fantasy DX, the magazine I showed you. And I just feel it did a really good job establishing itself, and it has sometimes we need to do a lot more studying of how pretty much demographics are pretty much filled and how we watch things nowadays in today's modern society in the 2020s. Because we have a lot of work to do, especially the anime tourists, because they be on one, to be real, because we have a lot to work to do. And I do feel back in that time we had a full range of color of anime that pretty much showed and paved the way towards how pretty much we see anime is absolutely one of the most astronomical, most inspiring types of like mediums that shouldn't be taken for granted, like we're doing back in like today's modern world. But back in the day, it was something that nobody else had ever seen at all, and we would just wanted more and more and more of it, and just actually learn like the many demographics, the art style, the creators, the mangakas, and also anime creators of this very great demographic. And I do hope with watching like Cowboy Bebop, you get something really truly inspiring from it, because this, why I say the demographics, because this really influential anime, which anybody thinks that it's for boys and men, is actually for shoujo. And why I decided to put this in this very segment is because like people have a really bad misconception and also misunderstanding of what demographics are nowadays. Back in the day, why I say those many things, positive notes about it, is because like we're taking so much for like granted when it comes to like the demographics that we learn, and absolutely just feel like we're just consuming stuff and just being greedy about how we want more of like the same thing over and over, and not developing a media diet. And here's an interesting article that I found on animehanabi.com, which is a blog about the fruits and veggies, shoujo and slice of life, and also josei. Much like fruits and vegetables add vital nutrients and vitamins into a healthy diet, introspective anime-like series in the shoujo and slice of life genre also add important depth and personal meaning to your anime watching experience. From dealing with abandonment, trauma, and the feeling of not belonging with Natsumi Yojicho, to being a socially exhausted introvert with the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, to letting go of past loved ones with Slow Loop. There are so many anime that can relate to your life on a more personal level and turn casual media watching into a life-changing experience. And I do feel like people don't want to go to these stories such as shoujo and josei because they're not as revered as like shonen and seinen categories, because like shonen being like the most biggest like influential like pretty much popular thing, and it's just like not geared towards like the women gaze. Because shonen has a lot of weight on it, like the art styles and the main characters are pretty much so repetitive. Because that's for articles I could put down below in case you're like you're wondering what a good read and throughout, which that's for another topic for another video, which I plan out coming up soon around the summer. And I do feel like we need a big three for like shoujo too also. Josei, shoujo is like basically like for big three, I would have to say it's Fruits Basket, Sailor Moon, and Owen High School Host Club, because they paved the way. And let me tell you, really good writing. But we're gonna get down to back to Cowboy Bebop now. But yes, with this video, with Cowboy Bebop, I do feel like Cowboy Bebop is a shoujo because like there are many expectations and also inspections about how pretty much the show was written, and also geared towards the female gaze, because like one thing in particular that pretty much came to my mind about it is that it pretty much focuses about the James Bond 007 archetype, about the smooth, jazzy person that we call Mr. Spike Spiegel, along with his colorful cast of characters, starting with the rugged, pretty much head captain himself, Jet, and also the sultry like vixen, Miss Faye Valentine, and also the computer hacker extraordinaire, childish extraordinaire, Miss Edward. And just to let you know, and Ian the Data Dog, have pretty much all this well-written, in-depth, like consistency with like the writing, their fluency, and also the inspirations of their characters, what makes them as a whole. And they're not like written in a way like how shonen and seinen are viewed as. And not all like shonen and seinen are like action-packed and whatnot. And it's depending on the writing of the creator, or also the character are in-depth or closure within like the characters and its like world building, and also lore, and also specifics and exposition that goes along the way. And I don't feel like Cowboy Bebop does not do this sort of things because it's geared towards the female gaze, which I'm putting a picture up if you, in case you haven't seen it or watched it. But yeah, I do feel like Cowboy Bebop have gotten so popular and big over like the Western animation, to the point where like Japan has first realized the whole manga and Asuka Fantasy DX, which I said previously before. And it sometimes becoming like a true misconception, a misunderstanding of how pretty much we view anime nowadays in today's modern like 2020 like world nowadays. Do a lot better at what goes on to what's demographic, which in my opinion has kind of like a bit bad misconception because of how much the anime industry and manga as a whole has pretty much a misogyny issue, to the point where like they veer towards like men taking over the industry itself, and how it's pretty much shoujo and josei are not revered like the big three of shonen, and pretty much we need to take like a humble backseat towards like how pretty much we view like demographics in today's world. Not like back in the 80s and 90s, but in today, like the early 2020s, because we want so much of the same stuff. And like I said, media diet is the key to like learning about these things. But yes, I'm gonna get down to the introduction of like pretty much why I stated about this movie, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hello and good evening, everyone out there. Are you looking for a great time? Are you looking for like fashion and cosplay and designs? Make sure to check out my cosplay shop on the Space Cruise at Daystar Voyage, Mercury, eBay, and also Vented, where I have so many good accoutrements and also costumes and cosplays, etc. You can check out. Make sure to buy yourself something new and get down with it. And let's blast off the next segment. Now, back to our show. Now, why I say this because like with Cowboy people are discussing about like the many aspects of what makes it so great and so grand and so like philosophical and prolific is because of the fact that you have so many of these multi-layered characters and their like way of just exploring life through like be it from grief, like depression or trauma or like the many issues within like the show of how it depicts like these many tough subjects that pretty much can pull at your heartstrings for these characters and you can relate to them as a whole is because as I started watching the whole movie and seeing like the many aspects of what makes them all special and so multi-layered, and like I say this with this tricky word called nuance, you get so much from these characters of how pretty much they had to come from their struggles from like going from the bottom to the top and also pretty much excelling at what they love to do. Even though at certain times on their quest they become like a hot mess like of a family in their own way. But yes, with like Spike in general, he pretty much, spoiler alert for everyone out there, lost the love of his life that he pretty much wanted to relate to and want to be able to just like absolutely want to spend time with. But however, his like mission and excitement of just like dreaming awake pretty much cost him almost everything. Just trying to search for stuff and just being impulsive did not get him to where he is. Like it got him to where he is in like his own way, but it's just like sometimes like when you had to take a back seat or life, you just had to just rest and just like flow with like the water and be like that. And that's what Spike has to learn to ever since he joined the crime syndicate also and became a bounty hunter, so on. And with Jet case, I feel like he's one of those old people where like he has so much wisdom and says that he gets like stale in his old ways and also just like wants to inspire other people. But sometimes they don't listen to him in certain aspects. Edward, I feel like she's just really childish and has like so many like layers towards her to be able to just like she's growing up in her own way to the point where like she has to be able to just navigate the life herself when like nobody can hold her hand. And as for Faye is just like a newcomer when it comes to the discovery of like womanhood and just like being who she truly is and just enjoying like Mars for what it is now ever since getting out of cryogenic sleep. And you get so many of like these great interactions with like so much of these four characters along with how they pretty much battle and do their own thing. But sometimes be it from a hit or miss or mission failed or mission succeeded, it just becomes like such a funny and such a philosophical moment just to be able to see these characters blossom and bloom. Philosophical meaning like wise and wisdom and just like so intriguing to see like all these characters bloom in their own way. And it's such a great thing to see and also bittersweet once you get to see like the rest of the series and also like bittersweet meaning like they all have the whole signs of depression just going through the whole stuff like from Faye finding like the new world that she's now living in now ever since growing out of cryogenic sleep, Spike losing like all that he loved within like Julia and also trying like to elope with her, and also like you know Edward trying to like find who she truly is and also like her origins, and also Jet just being like the dad that just wants everyone good for him and everybody else, even though like they don't take his advice at certain times, and he's just like stuck in his old ways himself. He just wants to lay back and just have a good time. But yes, I digress on the fact that Cowboy Bebop is not a shonen or seinen because of how much like you get to see all these multi-layered characters just like bloom in their own way, and just like feels as if like everybody else just wants to be able to just better themselves out as a whole, and you get to see like some of the visuals and the artistry and the sultriness of like and the soulfulness in general that. For that matter, within Cowboy Bebop, ever since I watched the movie, I felt so hooked on it and just felt like you could see so many of these great characters and just bloom in their own way and just venture on after you watch the end of the series and also the movie in general. You get the whole puzzle piece of like everything coming together. You get like the meats and the vegetables and the fruits and the salad, everything else in between, like I said, with the media diet topic. And we're almost reaching the conclusion of our video. Thank you for blasting out, by the way. You can just like and support and subscribe this channel and click that thumbs up button and make it golden and blooming like a yellow rose, because I want this whole dang garden of roses to like bloom like you yourself too. See what I did there? Because we have so much like great things coming up within like the whole summer vacay of like this channel. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to tell you about one topic. I do feel like with Cowboy Bebop, this is like a timeless classic that anyone could just jump into because it doesn't have like any like profanity or any nasty word like you do with like Shonen, like I said before and whatnot. If I said it 1,000 times before, like a broken record. I do feel like in certain ways, like with Cowboy Bebop, it's such a special piece of like anime media and artistry in like animated form because of how well written, how pretty much just absolutely just bombastic the whole dang cast of colorful characters just like affects this world and lore, and also the space and sci-fi genre as a whole just like feels so immersive and just like feels as if like people could be able to just like relate to all these characters and just like be captivated. And if this is your first interest towards anime, you're in for a treat when you watch Cowboy Bebop, even the movie and also the series in general. And also make sure to tell me about your favorite Cowboy Bebop moment or your favorite movie moment within the series, and also your favorite character in general on the comment section down below. And thank you so much for blasting off. And that's for the time for today. I hope everyone out there have a lovely evening. Enjoy yourselves wherever you are in the world. Drink and eat plenty of healthy foods and water. And let's allow the topic with a key. Come sit the tea with me next time on this beautiful space voyage that we're all on right now. Pirates and space cowboys and girls are all welcome. Thank you so much. Let's support, subscribe for 300 plus. Thanks, and so on. And see you later, space cowboys and girls.